message is that the next one to arrive claiming to be God is a fraud, it doesn't do much in terms of predictive programming. But with Masonic and Illuminist symbolism unconcealed, it has hidden in plain sight written all over it. As synchronicities go, the most puzzling involved the terrorist attack on 9/11. Now, statistically speaking, some of these have to be coincidences, but others violate the odds outright. Over and over again, 9/11 appeared in everything from movies to comic books. And what about the FBI's failed attempt in 1993 to bring down Tower 1? Why did none of the artists see that as the future? Why did they universally envision the top of the buildings being damaged rather than the bottom? Did they know the first attack would fail? Was it insider knowledge? Or was it something more? Surely the 9/11 inside job plan isn't as old as 1976. With symbols, the Illuminati piss on every tree they pass, so how could they conceal the plan for so long? And if they did conceal the plan for so long, why did they even bother bombing Tower 1 in 93 if they knew it would fail and the tower's eventual destruction involved damage to the top? In my opinion, these synchronicities stem from one of two sources.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad that you could join us today for this Wednesday, July 25th, 2001 broadcast. And I'm going to put the call out that you call the White House and tell them, look, we've seen the news stories that you've wanted to blow things up, that you have blown things up, and that you're saying that 4 million of us are going to die and we need martial law and the Associated Press at one of your little drills you had. And that we're aware of who the terrorists are if you pull this. I want you to call these major newspapers. I want you to find out these statements were true by the White House about preparing for martial law. And I want you to let them know that if there is any terrorism, we know who to blame. The point is, if any terrorism comes, it's from this government. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s, running the Mujahideen war, and whose family builds all the military bases over in Saudi Arabia right now, and sits on the board of Iridium Satellite. He's the boogeyman they need in this Orwellian phony system. I want the White House numbers up there now. A big part of this solution, after you research all the government terrorism and check out what I'm saying is true, call the White House and tell them, we know the government's planning terrorism. We know Oklahoma City and World Trade Center was terrorism. We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners, Baltimore Sun. If you do it, we're going to blame you because we know who's up to it. Or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame. And you could save the planet.
Now, Alex Jones didn't have insider knowledge in the classical sense. He was just reading the trends. But here's an example of real insider knowledge.
What is Scenario 12D? We know it's a war game scenario, that it has to do with airline counterterrorism. Why is that important enough to kill for?
Because it's no longer a game.
But if some terrorist group wants to act out this scenario, why target you for assassination?
Depends on who your terrorists are.
The man who conceived of it in the first place. You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual. It's a faction. A small faction.
For what possible gain?
The Cold War's over, John. But with no clear enemy to stockpile against, the arms market's flat. But bring down a fully loaded 727 into the middle of New York City, and you'll find a dozen tin pot dictators all over the world just clamoring to take responsibility and begging to be smart bombed.
I can't believe it. This is about increasing arms sales.
Mm-hmm. This is birdcage liner. Wild-eyed crap right up there with Elvis as an alien and two-headed babies.
You obviously read it.
Don't be so damn naive.
You're absolutely sure that this is the targeted flight?
This flight was chosen primarily for its visibility. It's scheduled to pass over Manhattan on its way to Boston.
You said they intend to bring us down in the middle of New York City?
Byers, your flight's going to make an unscheduled stop in exactly 22 minutes.
The corner of Liberty and Washington, Lower Manhattan.
The World Trade Center. I'm going to crash the plane into the World Trade Center.
I'll tell the flight crew.
All right, try cutting electrical power.
We've thought of that. We've thought of everything.
New York Center, this is Atlantic National Flight 265 Heavy. We are declaring an emergency. We have 110 souls on board, 16,000 pounds of fuel. We've got manual override.
The Lone Gunman ran in 2001.
That's right. 2000. It was a mid-season replacement, so we. Oh yeah, right. 2001. We shot in 2000. January 2001. We started airing.
When did you shoot the episode with the government secretly hijacking a jet by remote control to fly to the World Trade Center?
Yeah, that we shot in March of 2000.
On the morning of September 11, 2001, you see a plot from the TV show you were in, to some extent, coming true. Tell us in a nutshell what happened in that episode.
There is a government plot where they take a computer and basically override all the pilot's control systems, and by remote control are going to fly it into the World Trade Center in the series to start a worldwide war on terror, on terrorists.
So what do you think it is, or any ideas or feelings or thoughts on that? You know, what is it? Is it an inside track, a conspiracy with the writers of the Lone Gunman? Or is it that they were tuned into the news? And, I mean, Tom Clancy
wrote it in his book, too, right? The interesting thing that I had heard, that this goes back before even Lionel Chetwin, that Chris Carter was at a cocktail party, and he felt very out of place, and apparently he was in a tuxedo way in the corner, and this psychic came over to him and said, whatever you're working on is going to make you a ton of money. And that was just before he did the X-Files. Well, that psychic I talked to, I go, what were you doing at the Hollywood party? She goes, I was hired by the CIA to go to parties and then just go home and email what I talked about at people. So the CIA has been tracking Hollywood parties since the 80s in order to determine, because, you know, Hollywood films are a...
They set the agenda.
They set a foreign policy, sort of. I mean,
no, it's a projection. It's America's dominance. They admit as long as Hollywood.
Right. And so they want to make sure that all the producers and the writers, that nobody's thinking anything so radical or doing a movie that will completely undermine their foreign policy plans. And that they do that through sending women to parties and having them email. It's the weirdest thing. It's kind of creepy. Everybody I tell in Hollywood, all my actor friends, are kind of freaked out about it.
This is Steve Jackson's card game, Illuminati, the game of conspiracy. From beginning to end, this deck reeks of insider info. The final goal of the game is, yep, you guessed it, none other than world domination, naturally. The sheer outlandishness of some of the cards desensitizes those outside of the know, but a deeper look reveals that there's not a single card in the deck that hasn't happened, isn't happening, or won't happen. Most of the cards depict a sinister brand of humor mixed in with knowledge of a deep insider. But we can't rule out the paranormal in this case. Steve Jackson, the game's creator, dabbles in magic. Steve Jackson, founder of Steve Jackson Games, owned a spin-off company called Illuminati Online, which eventually became a website hosting company whose servers were based in Austin, Texas. In 1990, the Secret Service raided Illuminati Online and ran off with their servers. After losing the case in federal court, the Secret Service was forced to return the servers and pay Illuminati Online $50,000. Then, in 1999, Wired magazine reports that a group of hackers broke into campaign website of then presidential hopeful George W. Bush, only to find out that George's website was hosted by none other than Steve Jackson's Illuminati Online. And while you try to contain your amazement, I'm going to analyze this guy's psychology. First, hosting your campaign website from Illuminati Online is completely unnecessary. Why not teddybears.com or praisejesus.org? It's not like other insiders need help identifying you. Your family has been calling for a New World Order since there was a New World Order. Just another example of them giving clues they needn't give. So, if not by insider info, then what's the other angle?